Afia Kofi stood on the balcony of her penthouse in the heart of Accra, gazing at the city below. The lights from the skyscrapers twinkled like stars against the night sky. She had it all: success, independence, wealth, and freedom. Her boutique, known for its impeccable style, was thriving. People admired her from all walks of life: the rich, the famous, and even those who merely wished they could live as freely as she did. Afia had long turned down suitors who came to her, convinced that marriage was a trap. To her, it represented everything she didn't want: commitment, sacrifice, and loss of autonomy. She was convinced that she could run her life her way. She didn't need a man to validate her success or happiness. "You don't know what you are missing," her married friends often said, but Afia laughed it off. She knew they were envious of her freedom. "I don't need a man," she would reply. "I have everything I want." But as the years passed, a subtle change began to occur. Afia had just turned 40, and while her career had soared, there was an underlying emptiness she hadn't anticipated. Ever since she was young, Afia had witnessed her friends and family fall into traditional relationships, each marriage seeming to come with its own set of burdens. Some of her friends would complain about their husbands being overbearing, others about the limitations that came with raising children. Afia didn't want any of it. She was determined to stay free. "Why tie myself down to one man when I can enjoy the company of many?" she would boast whenever the subject of marriage came up. "I would rather have man friends so I can live life on my own terms." It wasn't that Afia wasn't admired by men. In fact, she had more suitors than she could count: handsome, successful men who wanted her to be their wife. But Afia had made up her mind earlier on. She didn't need a husband. She had a successful business, a beautiful apartment, and the admiration of the city. Her friends, many of them married with children, would often tell her she was missing out on something deeper. "Afia, you don't know what you are missing," they would say. "You don't have to give up your freedom, but there is something about having a family. It's not the same." Afia would laugh them off. "I don't need a family. I have everything I need. Freedom and wealth are enough." Afia lived this way for years. She was the life of every party, always surrounded by a group of attractive men who admired her independence and beauty. She traveled frequently, enjoying the best things life had to offer. She drove the latest cars, wore the most fashionable clothes, and dined in the city's most exclusive restaurants. Her apartment in East Legon was a sanctuary, decorated with the finest furniture and art pieces, a testament to her taste and success. The more her married friends advised her to reconsider her stance on marriage, the more Afia dug in her heels. She relished in their worries for her. "You all don't understand. I'm not tied down by anyone," she would say with a wink, enjoying their uncomfortable silence as they realized how different their lives had turned out. But as the years passed, something started to shift. Afia was now 40, and though her career was flourishing, a feeling of emptiness began to settle in her heart. Her friends' children were growing up, and their lives had expanded in ways that Afia had never experienced. She had once mocked their commitment, but now she couldn't help but feel a sense of longing whenever she visited their homes, seeing the warmth of family life. The men who had once courted her were now married with children, and Afia noticed a gradual shift. Where her phone had once buzzed with invitations from various admirers, it now remained largely silent. Her social circle seemed to shrink, and the vibrant city life she had once enjoyed now felt hollow. Then came a series of events that shook her deeply. It began with a health scare. Afia had always been strong and independent, but one evening she was struck with an unexpected illness while at a gala. Alone in her penthouse apartment, she struggled to call for help. Her friends had their families to turn to, but Afia had no one. She felt vulnerable for the first time in years. In the weeks that followed, Afia had a run-in with the police due to a misunderstanding involving one of her business partners. The matter could have easily been resolved with a calm and collected approach from a supportive partner, but instead she found herself dealing with the case on her own. Her connections, her charm, her beauty, none of it seemed to help. She realized as the days went by that there were moments when a husband could have made all the difference. Then disaster struck. A critical issue in her business, a rival fashion house had stolen her designs, threatened to ruin everything she had worked for. Afia fought tooth and nail to get her designs back, but the process was exhausting. What she needed was someone by her side who could help her handle the pressure. Someone who understood how to balance personal life and professional life, but there was no one. Afia began to panic. She realized that for all the men she had once kept around, none of them were the type of man who could stand by her in the face of real-life challenges. These relationships had always been light-hearted and fun, but now, when she needed someone with depth and commitment, she found herself utterly alone. One night, after a long day of fighting both the legal battles and struggling with her own fears, Afia sat down at her kitchen table, exhausted and defeated. She stared out the window at the glittering lights of the city below. Her world seemed to be falling apart, and she didn't know who to turn to. "I've always been strong," she whispered to herself, "but this is too much. I need someone. I can't keep pretending anymore." She opened her laptop and logged into a dating site. She had resisted the idea for years, but now she was desperate. Perhaps it was time to find someone, anyone who could offer her the companionship she had been too proud to seek. She scrolled through the profiles, but what she found disappointed her. The men on the site weren't looking for a partner, they were looking for second wives, for women who would be content with being a stepmother. Afia recoiled. This wasn't what she wanted. She didn't want to be part of someone else's broken relationship. She didn't want to settle for less. Tired and frustrated, she finally did something she hadn't done in years. She reached out. She called her friend Grace and confessed everything. "I've been running from this for so long," Afia said, her voice shaking, "but I think I'm ready to settle down. I want a partner, someone who will be with me through the highs and lows, someone who will stand by me when I'm not at my best." Grace listened carefully and after a pause said, "I know someone. He's a widower, a good man who has been through a lot. I think he might be exactly what you are looking for." Afia was introduced to Kwame, a kind, humble man who had lost his wife a few years earlier. He wasn't wealthy like the men Afia had once known, but he was dependable and honest. He was patient and gave Afia the space to open up about her fears, her desires, and her past. He didn't try to change her. He simply embraced her for who she was. They grew close, and Afia, for the first time in years, felt the warmth of love that wasn't tied to material wealth or fleeting prayers. As Afia and Kwame married, Afia realized that true love wasn't about sacrificing your independence, but finding someone who complements you. someone who will walk beside you through all of life's challenges. She no longer felt the sting of loneliness, and her heart was full. Afia had spent so many years running from the idea of commitment, believing it would restrict her. But in the end, she learned that commitment wasn't a chain, it was a partnership, a bond that made her life richer, fuller, and more meaningful than she could have ever imagined. And so, Afia's tales became a powerful reminder to all that love isn't something to be feared or avoided, it is something to embrace, and it is never too late to find it.